Evening guys, you're joining me here today at the fabulous Maver Woodland View fishery. Now like I just said, we're going into the evening time of the day, and one of the best methods for fishing at this time of the day is fishing in the margins, where the fish really do look to come in, looking to clean up any bait that anyone's threw into the lake at the end of their session. Now I'm going to be fishing in two different spots in the margin. I'm going to start a little bit further away from myself. I'm going to go down to the next pallet, and then the one line where I really do feel like I'm going to catch a lot is fishing really close to myself, where I can get tight into the margin. This peg isn't allowing me to fish down to the next margin and get really tight, but fishing away from the margin sometimes can be quite good. So we're going to give it a go, but like I said, I'm going to feed some bait a little bit shorter, a little bit closer to myself, where I can get right tight into the margin and give that a go. Now hopefully as the light starts to drop and we're approaching the right time of day, and I'm feeding the right bait, 2mm pellets with corn on the hook can be a devastating way of feeding. So hopefully I start feeding both my pegs, swap between the two, and hopefully catch a few for you. Right, so we've had a great start fishing down to the next pallet, a little bit further away from yourself. With the only issue we're just starting to have now is that when the fish are coming into my peg, they are wafting the bait about. And when you fish away from the bank, what can happen, the fish can come in behind your float, and that does lead to quite a lot of line bites and the odd foul look fish. One of the great things about fishing against the bank is that you can actually put your rig right against the mud, and then that eliminates this problem straight away. But sometimes when the fish are a little bit wary about coming into the shallower water, fishing away from the bank is really good. And we've still had an absolutely brilliant start. We've caught 7 or 8 real big fish, a couple of big F1s. So I feel like the fish now are starting to come into the peg quite aggressively, looking to mop up any bait that comes in. So it could be the sort of time of the day now where I'm going to start feeding a little bit of bait shorter, closer to myself, where I can put my rig against the bank and hopefully get some cleaner bites, catch a few more fish in the mouth, and hopefully they'll be even bigger. But like I said, we've still had a decent start, and in match conditions, maybe fishing away from the bank could be very good as well, because the fish might be a little bit wary of coming right close to you. But fishing with 2mm pellets and corn does seem right so far anyway. Corn on the hook is mega. It's a big heavy standout bait, and when you get these real big fish into your peg, it really does stand out and make it visual for them. And the bites have been absolutely unbelievable, real fast, real positive and aggressive. So like I said, we're going to start feeding a little bit of bait shorter to themselves, give that a go, and hopefully catch a few more. So we're fishing away from ourselves, where we've caught some real decent fish. But like I said, I've started feeding some bait shorter to myself, and straight away it was unbelievable how quick the fish have come in. Straight away they've come in, and you start to see the water go brown. The fish are starting to tail up, and I've gone straight in. Literally within 20-30 seconds I've hooked one, and the bite was totally different, because I know the fish can't come behind my float. Every single bite that you should get at this distance now should be really positive. There's another big F1. We've got some carp on the peg, but we've also hooked some big F1s along the way. Can barely pick it up, it's that big. But yeah, now hopefully the fish are coming in on this line. If I can get the feeding dead right with my micros and my corn, and use the right size pot, get the right amount of fish in, we should have a good end to the session. But what I do now, whilst I'm got the rig out of the water, is just talk you through it. Right, to start off with, we're using a size 12 MVR carp hugger rig. which is really important because the hook itself is very, very strong with a wide gape, which is important for when you're hooking big baits like dead maggots, corn, worms, stuff like that. But the main thing about it is that it's very strong. You're going to be hooking great big fish in the edge and you don't want it springing out. The hook length itself is 020 MVR hook length mono, and it's 4 inches long, which is really important because what you need to do when you're fishing in the margins is you want to use the whole weight of the float in one bulk at the top of the hook length. So what this eliminates, what can happen when the fish come into your peg, the bait can waft around and you can get lots of line bites like what I talked about when we're fishing further away for yourself. One thing you can do is just have the bulk right at the top of the hook length. Now what this does is when you get a line bite, what this will do, it will just make the rig cock a lot quicker. So the line bite will end and the rig itself will cock and settle a lot quicker. The main line itself is 020 MVR rig line, which is also really important because it's nice and strong. The last thing you want to be doing is hooking 12, 15 pound carp in the margins and getting snapped up. Another brilliant bit of this rig is the float itself. It's a really durable float, but the most important thing about the float, it's got a 2mm bristle, which is quite thick. If you actually look at the float, you would think, oh, it's very thick, it looks too thick, but it's not. When you're fishing for these big fish and you're using real heavy baits on the hook, the last thing that you want is your float to be dragged under with the weight of the bait or be getting line bites and your float to be dragging under. That thick 2mm hollow bristle is really important. It sits up above the water nice and proud, and it will just let you know exactly when you get proper bites compared to line bites. The elastic itself is a 14 to 17 dual core, which is my go-to elastic when fishing in the margins really. It's supple enough that if you catch big F1s like I did then, you're going to land them nice and comfortably. But when you do really hook a big fish, it powers up and it gives you plenty of power to land real big double figure fish. Now another great thing about what I'm doing this evening is I'm using a brand new product, which is the MVR XX margin pole, which is a great addition to the Maver MVR XX range. So the top kits from the RXX margin pole and the number 4 sections will fit my main RXX pole. Now this pole gives you a great alternative for when you're fishing in the margins close to yourself, or if you're even going to bag up venues like Todburn Manor where I've been going recently, where you're never going to fish out more than a top 5. And I don't really want to be going wrecking my MVR XX, my big expensive pole, when I can just use my margin pole, which is ultra strong, ultra durable, and I know it's never going to break, however big fish you're going to be hooking. And also the kinder pot is really important. So if you get the correct right amount of bait in your peg, you will get lots of fish in the mouth and you will reduce line bites and foul looking. So tonight I'm just using a medium sized one, but I have got some bigger sized pots like 100, 125mm, and I also have got some smaller ones which I can swap. I can just pop off, pop back on the pole, so I can get my feeding dead right and get the right amount of bait in your peg. So that's my rig, all really nice and balanced, nice and strong, nice strong balanced elastic. Let's get some bait back on the hook and get back in and catch you a few more. Right, what I've actually done now is I've started feeding a third spot in my margin. What I found is that I had a brilliant run fishing close to myself to my right, and then it all went a little bit funny. I started getting lots of boils. Now I think what I found is the situation, what is happening is that the fish have come in so aggressively and they've wafted the bait around in quite an area, and what you find is the situation where you've got fish all over the peg. Instead of having just a nice little tight area where you've got bait, which I had when I first went in on the line, what I've done is I've just plumbed up a line to my left as well, and luckily it was exactly the same depth at the same distance away from myself. Now hopefully if I can get the feeding dead right, I can go in here and I can nick 2 or 3 just like I did on my right hand margin, and then I can go back so I can start rotating. And one other thing as well, for some reason I've been going to a lot of venues where if you feed both sides, you'll find one side is a lot better. I don't know why. Even if it's exactly the same depth, the same distance away from you, the fish will just prefer coming in on one side. So a great little tip for you is that if you go in you catch well and then it goes funny, you're getting a lot of fish in your peg and you can't catch them, just plumb up again on your other side and start again, and you can have another good run and then just start rotating, and you could end your day with a massive weight fishing like that. Well, there you go. Switching between the two lines has really been good. I can go in on one line, I can catch 2 or 3, then the fish start wafting the bait around, and then you just change, start again, and it's been absolutely brilliant. The fish have probably averaged between 6 and 10 pounds, which you can see why you can just catch so many big weights here at Woodlands. But feeding 2 meals with corn on the hook has been brilliant. Size 12 hook, we've hardly lost anything. Fishing, putting your float tight against the bank. Fishing with proper gear, we've not foul looked hardly anything. But there you go, it's a great one to end on. It's actually a ghosty. So the main things about today is been fishing in the right depth, the right distance away from you, feeding the right bait, and you can get yourself in a situation where you can catch massive weights, pleasure fishing or in matches.